Shalom Uvracha. Rabbi Yochanan says in Maseches Gittin that it was the humility of Zechariah ben Avkulas that destroyed the temple, that burned the sanctuary, and that exiled the Jewish people among the nations. What's the story? Bar Kamsa is upset with the sages. He goes to the Caesar, he goes to the emperor, and he tells them that the Jewish people are rebelling against you. The emperor sends an offering, sends an animal in order to test it out. This is the advice that Bar Kamsa gives him. And Bar Kamsa makes a blemish in the animal so that the halacha would disqualify this animal from being brought upon the altar. Bar Kamsa comes into Yerushalayim. There's a debate. Do we bring up this animal upon the altar? Do we sacrifice it in order to placate the emperor? And he says no, because future generations will say that you're allowed to bring up an offering even though it's blemished. Perhaps then we should just kill Bar Kamsa. No, says Zechariah, you can't kill Bar Kamsa because future generations will say that the punishment for making a blemish on an animal is death. And therefore what happens? The animal was not sacrificed, Bar Kamsa was not killed, and Jerusalem was destroyed. Says Rabbi Yehoshua, it was the modesty of Zechariah that destroyed the temple. And the question is, what's the message? That we shouldn't be modest? What's the problem? What's the issue? Why is this the crux? Why is this related to the destruction of the temple? So I think it's important to note, in Eicha Rabbah, in the Medrash, we find another snippet of information about Zechariah ben Avkulas. And that is that he was among the sages who were at this event with Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. And he didn't object. He didn't make a macha. Meaning, he was party. He was in some way complicit in this entire affair of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa that led ultimately to the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. And what's the common thread with Zechariah ben Avkulas? The answer is indecision. He was unable to make a firm decision and to action the decision that he knew was right. The sages who were at this event, they knew it was the right thing to make a macha. They knew it was right to make an objection, to get up and to stand for the shame, the embarrassment that was caused to Bar Kamsa. But they were afraid of this powerful figure, whoever it was, the banquet, we don't know his name. They were afraid of his power, and therefore I'm sure they had good reasons, good excuses, but they didn't do the right. They were afraid. The same thing for Zechariah ben Avkulas. He was afraid at the event, and later on he was also afraid to do the right, and he had good excuses, but he was ultimately unable to action the right. He was, if you want, frightened into inaction, into being stunned because of the different concerns that he raised. And this goes back to Chet HaMeraglim. This goes back to the sin of the spies that we read about this week's parasha, in Parashas Devarim. What was the crux of the sin? The answer is a lack of trust in Hashem. And that lack of trust led to this impotence, led to this inaction, this inability to fight against the nations of Canaan, to conquer the land and to settle it, because they were afraid. Why were they afraid? They didn't have enough trust. The pasuk in Tehillim tells us, Betach be'Hashem, have trust in Hashem, ve'asei tov, and do good. Where is that ultimate good? Here, in the land of Israel, in the land of Canaan, where it's not easy to do good, where good is a struggle. You have to struggle against the evil of Canaan. You have to struggle against the entire concept of building your own political entity with all of its complications, with all of its complexities, with all of its internal strife and struggle. That's part of our mission, is to overcome those difficulties, and to do that requires real trust in Hashem. You have to trust in the source of all goodness in order to realize the good in the world, even under difficult and extenuating circumstances. Says Rabbi Yehoshua, it was Zechariah ben Avkulas' inability to do that led to the destruction of the Mikdash, that Chazal tell us was a continuation of the Chet HaMeraglim, the same day, Tisha B'Av, the date of the sin of the spies, and the date of the destructions of the two temples. And like Chazal say, the end of Sanhedrin and elsewhere, we cried for nothing on Tisha B'Av, the sin of the spies, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us what to cry for. It doesn't mean like a parent, I'll give you what to cry for. It means that we still haven't mended that sin. And mending that sin is up to us today. It's up to us to have the courage, to have the fortitude, to have the strength to do the right, to go forwards, to listen to the word of Hashem that's calling us to return to His land, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu has brought us back home, to carry on building, to carry on the labor, to bring a society of tzedakah u'mishpat, a society of justice, a society of righteousness, a society of closeness with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a society in which Jewish life thrives here in our own land, and to make sure that we go step by step towards Yerushalayim, towards the building of the Beis HaMikdash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed that in our hand. It's up to us to have the courage, to have the strength, and all of that draws from the trust in Hashem that gives us that strength and courage to go forwards. Halavai, that we should have that strength, that we should go forward step by step, and that we should reach the final stroke of our redemption with Yerushalayim, completely rebuilt, with the Beis HaMikdash at its center. We should all have a beautiful Shabbos.